Raw has just gone off the air. Well, a few hours ago, gone off the air. So let's review it on the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast. First things first, Randy Orton has signed a new long-term agreement. It seems with the WWE. That is all good. Randy coming back from injury at Survivor Series has been involved in a lot of stuff with the bloodline and seemingly now has his sights set on Gunther at Bash at Berlin in a couple of weeks' time. But Randy's re-signing with the WWE, I think was always going to be on the cards. He did before his last re-sign tease signing for AEW, but that obviously nipped in the bud. And now seemingly Randy will not be going anywhere anytime soon. So a very good move from the WWE and of course from Randy Orton. Let's get into Raw though, and well, we finally had Dominic Mysterio giving his reasons for doing what he did to Rhea Ripley, the big promo that opened Raw between Dominic, Damian, Liv, and Rhea. And Dominic was saying that basically he turned on Rhea because Rhea Ripley didn't treat him like a man. He was being treated like a boy. What guy calls his girl mummy when he lived, Morgan called me daddy. It was actually quite a good promo. It kind of finally gave us a reason, not that we didn't really need one, but Rhea was actually saying how proud she was of Dominic as well. And Dominic also mentioned that another reason why is he couldn't beat his deadbeat dad with Rhea, but he did with Liv. So a couple of interesting snippets there for that, but it's setting up. They did get into a brawl on here as well, and they got into a brawl a bit later, straight after actually, because Damian Priest did beat Carlito in the opening contest of Raw, which was pretty much an as you were match that you could imagine that Damian wasn't going to lose this match. There was a lot of interference on this from JD McDonough as well, but nevertheless, Damian Priest did win. Rhea did try to get Dominic up for the riptide during this as well. Liv Morgan made the save on that. And it's set up for Bash at Berlin, which was confirmed a little bit later on Raw. Rhea Ripley and Damian Priest versus Dominic Mysterio and Liv Morgan, which is going to be a really good one. The Terror Twins take on a bit of the new Judgment Day, which is going to be really interesting, actually. I'm looking forward to seeing that one at Bash at Berlin. It's showing up to be actually quite a good card. When me and Andy was talking at SummerSlam, on the SummerSlam review, we were saying that perhaps Bash at Berlin maybe just a glorified house show, which actually in WWE's case, they normally deliver on those glorified house shows, to be fair. But shape up to be an interesting one. There's another match that hasn't been announced yet that's probably going to be announced, which is going to be interesting. We'll get into that as we move towards the end of the show, and we're looking forward to it. If it's going to be the match, and if it happens anyway, it will be really good. So Bash at Berlin shaping up to be good, well, actually very good. To be fair, we've obviously got the Gunther Randy Orton match. Now we've got the Terror Twins versus Dominic and Liv, and probably a couple of others to be announced shortly as well. Another interesting thing that WWE did do today during Raw was actually officially announced the signing of Mark Henry's son. Now I don't know whether they've done that purposely. It was just before Bronson's match, and we'll get into everything that happened with Bronson Reed on Raw straight after this, actually. But I don't know if that was a particular placing for a reason or whether they just decided to do it then, because obviously Mark Henry being the world's strongest man, his son being signed in, big Bronson Reed on a path of terror, and we'll get onto that. Could be an interesting, was it placed for a reason or was it just a coincidence? We'll have to wait and see. But speaking of Bronson Reed, now this week, obviously he was fined for his actions last week. Seth Rollins unfortunately out for quite a long time, actually, from what we've been hearing. He's got he's really banged up from reports. Chronic injuries is what some of the reporting, excuse me, has said. Whether that's true or not is another thing. But yeah, Seth Rollins out for a while, and we're not quite sure when he's going to be back. But basically, the storyline sense is it's all been done through Bronson Reed. Bronson Reed was fined heavily last week on Raw, and this week on Raw, he wanted an opponent And that opponent, unfortunately for the opponent, was was the Miz. The Miz basically getting battered by Bronson Reed as well. Very, very good from Bronson Reed. He's got, I mean, Bronson Reed. We've said this for a while, and we've been saying, it was kind of how they were going to finally get this monster alive kind of thing on Raw. And it was, did he need to go to SmackDown? Was it just something that needed to happen? Um, to get him to I'm not saying a believable level, but when he first came into Raw, he was doing all right. There was a couple of losses, and it just kind of petered out for a bit. But in 3 minutes or 5 minutes last week, they managed to do something which they hadn't done for 6 to 8 months, which was make Bronson Reed, not saying believable, but a star that can actually elevate up to a high level. Because if you take out Seth Rollins and you take him out the way that he did, he was up, he's gone right up here. So very kudos to WWE for that. Yeah, this week, I mean, he absolutely annihilated Miz. He hit him with a load of tsunamis as well. Um, Adam Pearce, who had already doubled the fine that he gave Bronson Reed last week, has now, well, he said he was going to suspend Bronson Reed. I'm not sure if that is the case, or if he did do that. I don't know if he's actually suspended yet. We haven't heard officially the ruling for it, so we'll have to wait and see what happens with Bronson Reed going forward. But they've turned him into exactly what they wanted to turn him into, which is a star. And now it's a case of you've got him here, you've got the rocket strapped, but you haven't set it off yet. So they need to do that with Bronson Reed next. They've got it all set. It's just a case of lighting that touch paper and blowing him up to the moon, which they should do because he is a great athlete. He's quick for his size. He's obviously strong. Everything he does looks painful. And that's the other interesting thing. And that's the other thing that you've got to think about. Believability in a wrestler's key. And when Bronson Reed does his stuff, you cringe. So everything is right of him. It's just about when they want to push that button. With Bronson Reed. So we'll see what happens. Will he be suspended? Will he not? Will he have an opponent at Bash at Berlin? What will happen when Seth Rollins is back? When he comes back, there's rumors that he may not wrestle at all for the rest of the year. So interesting. We hope Seth gets better and he's back on our screens very soon. But more importantly, back on his screens when he's healthy enough to do so. I think that's the important bit that we need to add. But when is that going to be? We don't know. However, Bronson Reed continues his terror reign on WWE, and I'm all here for it. Women's action on Raw this week saw I suppose, the face Damage Control now against the Pure Fusion Collective, which was Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark. Obviously, they've got Sonya Deville in there as well. They've got, this was a #1 contenders match to take on the Unholy Union, Alba Fire, Isla Dawn. Really good tag match. This was Io Sky and Kairi Sane from Judgment Day. I don't know Judgment Day as faces. I'm still not quite convinced of it. I'm not sure. It felt like a heel program, this one. But I'm really, really not sure how the Judgment Day became, or this whole face. I know they sort of changed a couple of weeks ago, but I don't know. I'm just not buying into it yet. It's not quite got to me that their faces yet. I'm not fully invested in the Damage Control face turn on this, and with the Unholy Alliance, the Unholy Union, sorry, on here as well. This caused a disqualification victory for Damage Control. There was basically Sky drop kicking Stark off the apron. There was a bit where Zoe Stark super kicked out by Fire, and then they all got in together and had a big brawl, which now has set up a triple threat tag team match, I believe, for next week on Raw for the women's tag team champions. It was nice that the women have been showcased again. We always say this, we don't like them to be forgotten. I'm just not buying this Damage Control face turn yet. It needs to grow on me a little bit. It hasn't quite got there yet. I'm not fully focused on it. I don't know why. I don't know. Something seems to be missing from it. Not sure what it is, but yeah, something's not quite hitting on that one yet. But Could all change next week. I could be all for it. I could see enough to warrant the face turn. I just think after everything they've done, it's a difficult one to. It's a bit like Bailey. Bailey's face turn on SmackDown for me, it's not really happened at all. I haven't seen I wouldn't say I want to see the hug of Bailey, but I haven't seen enough of Bailey as a face on it since everything she's done as a heel, switching her. She's not really changed too much of her character, and sometimes you do need a sort of character change fully, or at least partly. I haven't seen that with Bailey, and I haven't seen it with Damage Control either. So I don't know on that. We'll have to. It needs more time, and I think Bailey needs more time as a face after so long as a heel, and that's the other thing. After so long, you're not Roman Reigns, who can just switch it, a click of a finger, and everyone loves you. So it's an interesting one. So we'll have to wait and see what happens on that one. Good interview with Pete Dunne actually this week. Jackie Redmond set up a good meeting with Pete Dunne. Um, you know, he was saying that he was never under Sheamus's wing, and Sheamus never elevated me. He actually held him down, and he was saying that he elevated Sheamus, and that Sheamus went on a run of a lifetime with him. So basically, um, he has set up a match with Sheamus for next week after that, and that's an interesting one. I'm going to look forward to that match. That match is going to be a tremendous match with Sheamus. There's a good history there with the whole brawling brutes. How did it? He felt that Sheamus was holding him back instead of him holding Sheamus back, and so it's interesting. That's it's kind of interesting how this has happened and where we're getting to, and well, that's gonna be a match for next week on Raw. Should be what they call a certified banger on Raw next week. What they're gonna is Pete Dunne heading for a push? Is this going to be a win for Sheamus? Pete Dunne's never really he's never really got there on his own, and I don't know whether that's a combination of bad booking, if they've not felt that he was, obviously under Vince, whether they felt that he was ready to elevate himself. But yeah, he's never had that kind of push where the elevation to a championship match on his own. He was a great, the United Kingdom champion for very, very long until Gunther come along, and there was a lot of good stuff happening with Pete Dunne, but it never materialized on the main roster. A lot of NXT call-ups on the main roster don't always go according to plan. You was hoping that would change under Triple H, and it has a little bit, but we're still not seeing the guys calling up for NXT doing a lot when the talent on NXT was always there to see. So Pete Dunne and Sheamus next week, though, should be an absolute bang. Now, something that I've said should have happened a long time, or something that I said for weeks and weeks and weeks that should be happening on Raw finally did. Now, this was they're not the Creed brothers anymore. They're American made. Chad Gable was at the Olympics, so he wasn't there this week on Raw. But he said he did say he had unfinished business with the Wyatt Six. We'll get to that in a minute because they didn't have a lot of, and didn't really have anything with the Wyatts on the arena. They had another vignette that played, and we'll get to that after. But yes, so this one was American made, so the Diamond Mine versus the American Alpha with Maxime Dupree in a Texas Tornado rules match, which means no tags. I like those ones. There's never you're never waiting for that hot tag. They're always together in the ring, which was great. The interesting bit was before this match, Ivy Nile had said to Maxine Dupree, you need to come and join us. Basically, come and join the American made. Leave the Alpha Academy, and Maxine Dupree basically said no. She was going to stick with her family. Well, during this match, which is actually a really good match, nice to see Tozawa a bit more as well. He's always under the radar, just dancing in the corner or doing something stupid. But you know, seeing him now wrestling, and you actually see how talented he is, which you weren't seeing before. So really good to see Tozawa in there. But however, what I was saying all along is Ivy Nile should join Chad Gable and reunite kind of with the Creed brothers, and that is exactly what she did. Ivy Nile did attack Maxine from behind during the latter stage on there. She dumped her face first on the announce table, put her with a dragon sleeper, just as Tozawa, well, he tried for a German suplex on one of them, didn't work. American made pick up the victory on this, but Ivy Nile finally aligning herself with American Made. Been waiting for it. She's always been a part of the Creep Brothers. I think it was a Chad Gable thing that she needed a bit more convincing on, which exactly what happened. And I'm very happy that Ivy's now going to get that run with Chad and the team. Where will it go? I mean, they are very much easily should. I mean, all four of these people should be tagged. Should be a champion. Chad should be a champion. The Creed brothers should be champions. Ivy Nile could easily be a women's champion. The Royal Rumble, I remember Dave saying how, actually it was feasible that she could win the Royal Rumble because of how impressive she is as a talent in the ring. And hopefully we're going to get to see that now as a talent. We're going to see it a bit more and she may win the gold at some point. But we'll wait and see what happens on that. But yeah, really looking forward to seeing Ivy Nile with American Made, and hopefully, some championships come their way very, very soon on Monday Night Raw. But I don't think it's over with them, and certainly who it's not over with is the Wyatt Six, which basically the Bo Dallas promo, everything has come full circle. It's been heavy lately, a lot of emotions, especially last week in Baltimore, where it all started. The White Six had their debut, where it all began. He was there. Something is happening now, something big, but the work isn't done. The work must continue. My life for you, my life for you, my life for you. And then Uncle Howdy comes in. This was Bo Dallas as the character, and then Uncle Howdy comes in. There you are. And that's it. I'm wondering whether the Ivy Nile, in the inclusion of Ivy Nile in the American Made, could have something to do with perhaps Alexa Bliss coming in soon. I know Nikki Cross is in the Wyatt group at the minute. I just wonder whether though they will use her, or will they start to use her? Maybe American Made will get the upper hand on the Wyatts, and then perhaps we'll see the re-emergence of Alexa Bliss. I know that she's been training for a long time on there, but I just wonder whether she will eventually be a part of the Wyatt Six going forward on Raw, or going forward when upon her return, or whether it'll take her some time to get in. But it'd be great to see Alexa Black as well. Hopefully, it won't be too long now before Alexa returns to WWE programming. It's been way too long. I know obviously she's had a baby, so that's all good. And I know she's been training, so she'll take her time. But hopefully, very, very soon, we will see Little Miss Bliss back on our screens on WWE Raw. And then you think of the women's division as a whole. You've got Alexa to come back. You've got Charlotte Flair to come back. I mean, I'm not Charlotte's biggest fan, as you know, but no, can't take away the talent of her. You got all that. I mean, obviously separate brands and all that stuff, but you've got all of that, and you think, wow, there is a lot of talent on those two. And then you've got a lot of ones in NXT that are making some real big noise. Soul because one of them, Wendy Chu's gone through a big transformation on NXT as well. And you think, wow, there's a lot of, you know, bits and pieces. There's a lot of moving parts there in the women's division, which actually could be such a strong, strong division going forward on WWE. And I hope we get to see it highlighted as well. I hope they don't just forget by the wayside and everything's kind of been Liv and Rhea on Raw on the women's side at the minute. But Ivy Nile, as we just mentioned, made her name for herself this week. So we'll see. But hopefully, yeah, Little Miss Bliss will come back. Charlotte Flair will be back soon. And then the women's division then hopefully can really kick on to another level on WWE. Odyssey Jones, last week, you remember Odyssey Jones come out helping the New Day. This week he had a throwaway match with the New Day. There really wasn't a lot with his match against Vincent Winey. I think his name was Winey. It really wasn't a long match, but the most important thing was after this match, Karrion Kross, was basically carrying on with this whole messing with the head of the New Day, trying to get involved, especially with Xavier Woods seems to be the one that he's targeting with perhaps coming away from the New Day. And he was saying about Karen Cross saying, are you going to step up next week again? Hinting at yet another tag match with the New Day. And Xavier was saying, well, which one of you two is going to step up next week? And Kofi then said, actually, he's got a better idea. Because if we make this a tag team match, one of them is not involved, which is true. So they're going to go a six-man tag, which the Final Testament versus the New Day and Odyssey Jones. So interesting that they're going to go with Odyssey Jones with the New Day next week against the Final Testament. Makes a lot of sense. But I think is this going to be where Xavier Woods leaves the New Day? That's the interesting part. I'm trying to get my head around next week whether or not we're going to get to see that or not, or whether it's just going to be a New Day win, for them. Is it going to start a bit? They've been sort of feuding bits and pieces, but this is like a proper, six man gets all of them in the ring at once match. Or are they going to start a faction feud between the two? How is this going to end? Is Xavier Woods going to turn on the New Day next week? Be interesting to find out and what happens then, because the New Day have been together for so long. I know Big E has been kind of half retired, half not. New Day have been, together for over 10 years now, I think, or at least 10 years. And they've always, there was always tools, maybe perhaps splitting them up in the draft, splitting the New Day up. There was always great merch sellers for WWE, made WWE a lot of money, hence why they had a long tag team run and everything they've done. So is next week the week that it finally happens? Because Xavier Woods, the way I think Xavier Woods thinking of it is he doesn't want Odyssey Jones in the New Day, or doesn't want him a part of the group. Big E, maybe he'll mention Big E and say he was always the third man of the New Day and didn't want anybody else to, take him over and stuff like that. So interesting to see what they do with the New Day next week. The main event of Raw, 2 out of 3 falls for the Intercontinental Championship. Braun Breaker, Sami Zayn, tremendous, absolutely tremendous. This match was, really enjoyed it. Braun Breaker obviously retained, and still made him more of a star than he ever was. Braun is he's a rare breed talent. Braun Breaker, it really is a rare breed in there. He's got everything, literally everything you could want. He's got the speed, he's got the strength. He's got the mat. He's got the sort of standard mat-based wrestling. He can go high flying if he needs to. He can probably pull out a submission move or two. And he's also got the stamina. Because some people, if you remember, like Braun Breaker is very much positioned like a Goldberg type character. He would hit a few moves on you and it would be done. I mean, this match was slightly different because it was 2 out of 3 falls. But, he has got that in him where he can go 20 minutes, he can go 30 minutes, whereas Goldberg, couldn't do that. And Braun Breaker literally has everything. I think he will be a world champion at some point in the WWE. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But this was a great match that he ended up retaining the title with. And what's next for Sami Zayn? Well, I think eventually we know what's going to be happening. There is talk of trying to get a trade going with SmackDown, or apparently they'll make it out to be a trade between two so that Jay and Sammy can get onto SmackDown eventually. Maybe SmackDown will get two and Raw will get two maybe from SmackDown. I don't know. But how they get to that, I don't know. But that's what I'm thinking. What's next for Sammy? What's next for Jay? Because if you've noticed, Jey Uso's kind of not been involved in the Judgment Day since the whole Live thing. He's kind of been pushed to the wayside. He didn't do it. I don't think he's done anything for the last couple of weeks on Raw. Sami Zayn kind of finishing his feud now with Braun Breaker. So the stars are starting to align a little bit as to them pushing over to SmackDown and joining the OG bloodline, or the original bloodline, with Roman and perhaps Jimmy. They'll probably do this in fits and spurts. I would imagine Jimmy would be the first to align with Roman. I think maybe these two will take a bit of time to get there, but eventually my assumption would be that Sami Zayn and Jey Uso will be traded back to SmackDown, maybe even temporarily. I don't know. Might even be a temporary thing where Roman obtains permission from Adam Pearce, someone who he's hated for so long, but needs that assistance to get these two over. So he may have get to speak to Adam Pearce. We know Paul Heyman's still got to come back as well, be a part of the bloodline, the OGs, and I'm sure that will happen as we move sort of, I would say, into Survivor Series. So we've got a little bit of time yet. Maybe at Bad Blood, I think Bash at Berlin will get something. whether that's a match, a tag match. Oh no, we won't get a tag match because Cody's going against Kevin, unless Jimmy comes back and we get the tag match, and then we move to Bad Blood, and perhaps that's when it happens. Because I think after Bad Blood, I think we go until Survivor Series. I'm not quite sure. We'll have to see. But nevertheless, on that, I'm sure that is where they're leading to it, and that is why they're not doing anything with Jay. And now that's why the Sami Zayn Braun Breaker feuds, and we still might get a little bit here and there with Sami and that, but I don't think they'll be in anything meaningful uh, until after this match. Well, I say after the bloodline thing. I mean, I don't know how long that's going to go on for. But anyway, let's move to the main segment. So this was we heard earlier on Raw that CM Punk had travel issues. And interesting enough, it was a segment between Randy Orton and Gunther. Drew McIntyre also wasn't happy during Raw. He was like, "Well, why are you giving someone else a title shot?" He was hinting that he wanted a title shot because obviously, as far as he was concerned, he'd beaten Punk. That was it, etc., etc. But Randy and Gunther had a little to do. And basically, Gunther was calling Randy Orton the biggest screw up of them all, which is interesting. During that, Randy Orton drops Gunther with the RKO, funnily enough, and then Punk and Drew start fighting. Where the hell that happened? But they start going. McIntyre headbutts Punk. Punk avoids a strap shot from McIntyre, and Punk kicks McIntyre in the gut and then whips Drew McIntyre with the strap. Now, the interesting point of that is I think they're leading towards a strap match at maybe not Bad Blood, maybe Bash at Berlin. My assumption is they're going to do a trilogy of matches. Bash at Berlin will be a match, the strap match, perhaps, that CM Punk wins. And then after that, they'll maybe go to Bad Blood, Hell in a Cell. Do we see Seth Rollins at that point? Is that the key, the catalyst to get him back? I don't know what they're going to do to get to what happens after that. Where does Punk go? Because if Seth Rollins is out for a while and CM Punk and McIntyre end their trilogy at Bad Blood in October, where does CM Punk go from there? What's next for McIntyre after that? When's Seth going to come back? If he's going to be out for a while, are we looking at Punk and Seth at WrestleMania? It doesn't seem, Punk will main event WrestleMania at some point. There's no doubt about that. It's just when will he main event WrestleMania? That's the key. That's what we're going to have to wait for. But a really good segment between those guys, and really hypes up their matches very much for Bash at Berlin. However, before we get to Bash at Berlin, we've got another couple of Raws. And next week on Raw, Damage Control will go against the Pure Fusion Collective. Will go against Alba Fyre and Idol in a triple threat match, like we mentioned. Sheamus for the Women's Tag Team Championship. Sheamus will take on Pete Dunne. And the New Day and Odyssey Jones will take on the Final Testament. All that has been confirmed for Raw next week. But guys, we've got some things coming up this week. Interview with Blacksmith Apparel. I'm sitting down with one of the NWA's brightest talents, who at 20 odd years old has her own promotion, or joint owns a promotion with her sister. We are talking to Kylie Page from the NWA. Matt Mondo's interview part 1 next week will drop. Review shows, usual stuff is coming on the channel. So don't forget to keep an eye on us at HTT Buckle on X, Hitting the Turnbuckle Podcast, and all other social media sites. But this has been the Raw review on the Hitting the Turnbuckle Podcast. And until next time, everybody, buckle down, stay safe, goodbye.